Welcome to Blood Moon Milk, the astrology show that used to come out every full moon and new moon. I'm Aurora. I'm your host. I have been doing this show now on a regular basis again for a year, talking about astrology for mindfulness, meditation, and manifestation purposes. And while I've really loved doing it, and it's my I'm I've made a promise I would do it for a full astrological year. So that's new moon in Aries to uh, full moon in Virgo, which is that's what we're about to talk about on this episode is this full moon eclipse in Virgo. And we're in the midst of some really, really wild astrological transits here in March. We've got Venus retrograde going on. Mercury retrograde is just about to get started in a couple of days, um, right around the time of this full moon, actually. And we have a full moon eclipse in Virgo. We also have Neptune changing signs. So this brings up a lot of shifting energies, a lot of change. And so I've been reflecting on what I want to do with this show. The show is not going to go anywhere, but the focus of the show is going to shift a little bit. Um, I'm going to continue doing astrology in the form of workshops. They'll be every couple of weeks. People can sign up for them. But on the show, I really want to focus on having conversations with people. Um, Conversations with other intuitives, artists, writers, people who are out there doing interesting things that inspire me that I think the world should hear about. And so that's what I'm going to focus on doing. The daily dose will still happen. So if you're signed up for that, don't worry. You're still getting the daily dose. That's not going anywhere. I'm still available for doing private astrological sessions. But in terms of creative content and what I like to make, the divining of the astrological transits can be a little dry for me. And while I love doing it, I really like having conversations with people a little bit more than just, well, the moon will be here and Mars will be there, and talking about that to myself and to all of you who are listening. So while I'm grateful for everybody who's here, I think we've got a lot of really good things to look forward to. And this shift in approach is going to allow me to focus on some of my other creative writing projects. I have a book that I've written that I would like to be able to devote some more time to. So shifting the format of the show, it's going to be able to free up some of that energetic bandwidth in terms of pre-production and writing. Because those conversations I love to have with people, they're really just free-flowing conversations. Um, and the astrology will still happen. The astrology will be like in workshop form, which again, that's a conversation about what is interesting to a person and their life, how these different transits show up. So I really hope that this shift will be a positive one that supports really growing a community, and kind of take some of the pressure off of me to constantly be on and performing, but whilst bring up some bandwidth to be creative. So with that being said, let's jump into this full moon in Virgo. It's going to be the last, episode of Blood Moon Milk, of this style of Blood Moon Milk. So let me set up the chart real quick, and we will talk about it. One moment. All right. So now I'm gonna share my screen, and we will be talking about astrology. All right. So this camera a little bit. It's kind of weird. So here we are. The full moon in Virgo will be happening on March 14th at 2:54 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The clocks did just spring forward an hour, and I'm still kind of feeling it, pretending like it didn't happen on some levels. And so here's the moon. She's up here at 23 degrees Virgo, really close, but not exactly conjunct the South Node in Virgo, where that is currently at 27 degrees of Virgo. And the moon will be at 23, almost 24 degrees of Virgo. Um, and so Virgo energy is very practical. It's down to earth. It wants a plan. It wants answers. It wants to know all the answers to all the questions it could ever think of before it can even ask the question a lot of times. Virgo energy is meticulous, and it's not necessarily grandiose. It is all about what's practical and what is supportive of groups of people. I think of Virgo energy as the mailman energy in a lot of ways. And it's not particularly glamorous, right? But the mail has to be delivered in a very specific way to be able to function. Or else people don't get their bills on time, people don't get paid, they like things kind of the wheels start to sort of come off society if the mail is not working. So while it might not be super glamorous energy, it is highly valuable and important, and it does need to work as a well-oiled machine. But because the South Node is in Virgo right now, which is why we're having an eclipse, that indicates that we are being asked to let go of some of these tendencies. Sorry, my nose is a little itchy. Um, so we're having to trust because the North Node is in Pisces. Pisces is all about faith and trusting the universe and allowing the universe's flow to catch us, even if we don't have the answers, even if there may be a lot of questions that just frankly, like the questions beget more questions. But if you can kind of leave that mental overactivity behind and get grounded in your body and find a sense of alignment within your energy body to tap into that flow of creative energy from the universe, then I think it could be a lot easier to show up and let go of that mental treadmill and that mental litany of questions. And it's just a period of time, it's just a phase. And all astrological transits really truly are just a phase of some sort, one length or another, but it's the choices that we make personally in those phases that define us and our futures and who we are. But there is a lot of energy here going on. So let's get into it. The sun is at 23 degrees Pisces, opposite that full moon, and the sun is conjunct Saturn. So this gives me the sense that there is something big and structural that is going to be eclipsed from our lives. Whenever we have a full moon, or in this case, I mean, it is a total lunar eclipse, we tend to see something leave in dramatic fashion, especially if we personally have something in our charts at or near where this eclipse is happening. So this is 23 degrees, 56 minutes of the sign of Virgo. And so it could be here in Pisces, or it could be in Virgo, or really any of the mutable signs, 23 degrees. You could be feeling this eclipse, but you're going to feel it most profoundly if you have something at 23 degrees Virgo in your chart. And so this means that there could just be a divine ending because eclipses are destiny portals. It's sort of like the universe saying, okay, enough of that. We need to make space in your life for new, fresh things to come in. And this is not for your highest and best good. And so therefore we need to scoot that away, kick it to the curb. And that can be really painful. And that's where the fear of eclipses comes from, is this existential dread of, oh God, what's going to happen? What's going to transpire now? Um, well, let's look at Virgo to kind of understand Virgo themes. It has to do frequently with health. So there could be a lot of people who suddenly have some sort of health crisis that just comes out of nowhere. Um, and it is also the sign of service and also purity. So, service to other people, taking care of other people, but also purity could be an issue. And I'm thinking of things like purity of food sources. Virgo is an earth sign and she deals with the harvest. And we know in America at the moment, we have a lack of farm workers picking crops, getting crops to from the fields to production centers. That could be an issue. You know, we could start to see fallout from some of these uh, policies that have been in place since the new administration came in, start to have an impact on people that we know firsthand because maybe there's a lack of purity in our food system. Just one potentiality there. But with Saturn so closely conjunct to the sun, this tells me that this is big, it is karmic, and there's definitely structural masculine energy coming in that is going to be at play here. Whether that's teaching us some sort of lesson or just enforcing the rules, constricting this flow of sense of faith in the universe. It could feel like the world is falling down around your ears. But Saturn and Pisces really wants to help us flex our intuitive muscles so that it becomes really, really strong and that we have this wonderful working muscle memory of how to tap into our higher selves, our creative sides, our and develop these projects that can really bring a lot of joy and fulfillment if you are consistent with it. It's about being consistent and making the floaty Piscean energy that really just kind of likes to go with the flow and making it more structured, honing it, if you will. Um, we also have Neptune. Neptune is very, very strong here. He's conjunct the North Node. He's at 29 degrees of the sign of Pisces. So dreams right now are going to be really intense. I've been hearing from a lot of clients that Neptune has been acting on their dreams for sure. They're waking up and they're writing their dreams down. They're getting messages. They're seeing people they haven't seen in their dreams in a long time. And then, you know, the real person pops up and short is just a short while later and this dimension. So I think that's a beautiful thing to think about. You know, we are awake and living in this dimension, in this reality. But when we go to sleep, our souls, our spirits can go to a lot of other interesting places, and we might be meeting up with people who we don't know yet, or people that we have lost, loved ones that maybe we don't get to see very often. And they might have messages for you. There might be something coming in. Um, Now, Venus is retrograde. She's here at 7 degrees of Aries right now. She is just barely semi-sextile to where this North Node is. So this tells me there's also a sense of destiny with Venus right now. And Venus retrograde in Aries, she is fiery, she's impulsive, she's in her detriment. She's going to be moving from her detriment sign to a sign of a place of exaltation when she goes back into Pisces, but that's still weeks away. So there could be a lot of impulsivity when it comes to relationships. It's not a great time to start a new relationship because there really could be a sense of rose-colored glasses during Venus retrograde. But it's not necessarily a bad time to kind of get to know somebody and test the waters, you know. It's also not a great time to go shopping for luxury goods. It might end up costing you more, either like literally or figuratively, than you would have preferred. I mean, whether it's like taxes or something that you don't factor in, or you're just not quite as happy with whatever it is that you purchased. It doesn't quite fit in the space as well as you thought it would, or, like you just don't end up like truly satisfied with it as much so as you would while Venus is direct. So it's a good time to review and revise creative projects and financial approaches. The market is going down. There's opportunities to be made there for sure. Um, if you've seen my TikToks, you've seen my short selling of Tesla and Palantir stocks that I have publicly talked about for my own personal values. I've kind of discussed how Venus retrograde has made me really consider my values and um, making a statement about how I feel about politics and et cetera, et cetera. If you're interested in that, go check out the TikTok at Blood Moon Milk Astrology. But yeah, so knowing which way the wind blows can really help you make good choices and good decisions. Um, Now, she's retrograde here, but she's working with this North Node of Destiny. So there could be exes coming back up, or not even exes that were lovers per se, but old friends could also be circling back around. Maybe there was a falling out at some point. Maybe there's been some growth on both sides. And this is a positive aspect. Things can uh, be healed and patched up, and maybe there can be some apologies. Maybe somebody feels guilty for speaking to somebody or treating somebody a certain way. This could be a real healing time for people. Um, we also have Mercury. He's direct during the full moon, but he is going like the very next day. I just moved the chart forward one day. The very next day on Friday, the 15th, Mercury will be retrograde. So he's stationing retrograde on Thursday or Friday, rather, at when this eclipse occurs. So Mercury retrograde can be like when he's stationing during eclipse, that can be dramatic. There can be a lot of confusion. There can be a lot of um opportunities for miscommunication. In Mercury in Aries is really impulsive. So making decisions sort of spur of the moment can be somewhat problematic. So do what you can to plan and communicate and have important things written down somewhere where maybe like a phone glitch isn't going to just totally derail your whole agenda. Um, Also make sure you're backing up computers, hard drives, all that kind of stuff before the retrograde happens, because Mercury retrograde is famous for messing up uh, all of those like technological assets that we use so frequently to live our lives. Also, we have Chiron, who is semi-sextile to Saturn. It's 30 degrees away, almost exactly. It's just an orb of 1 degree here. So this represents healing. And Aries, it's a healing of identity, of ourselves, of self-assertion, which can it can look like something as simple as somebody asking you to do a favor and you just don't have the bandwidth to do it. If you did, you'd be happy to, but you have your own life going on. You can't bend over backwards to please everybody all the time. And just saying, hey, I'm so glad you felt like you could ask me, but I don't have the capacity to do that day. I'm so sorry, but best of luck getting that sorted out, um, so that you can make space and time for you and your energy so that you're not getting dragged down and drained by energy vampires, because there's certainly people out there who will just take and take and take from you and not think twice about asking you for a favor that they could easily do themselves. But yeah, setting up boundaries is definitely something and Saturn is boundaries too. This is why I'm saying this. So healing through self awareness and asserting what you need to for yourself so you can clarify your identity and feel safe and comfortable in your own skin. But Saturn's also like, these are my boundaries. This is what I'm comfortable with. Respect those, and then we can grow. We can see how things go. But certainly, I think having boundaries, especially with so much Piscean energy, which really is, by definition, a lack of boundaries, can be really important right now. So listen to those little whispers that you might get, those little intuitive hits that you might get that are like, hey, I know this person wants me to go do X, Y, or Z, but I don't know if this is really the best thing for me to do. It doesn't quite sit right with me. Listen to that, and save yourself some pain and trouble, because that's gonna that's gonna be telling you what your right move is. So um, other people can figure their stuff out too. And if you're in a place to help, then that's great. But if you can't, don't feel bad about asserting your boundaries. Um, and this is interesting too. We've got Uranus here at 24 degrees Taurus, almost exactly trine this full moon. Again, I mean, this is very tight. This is an orb of 6 minutes, right? So we've got Taurus, Uranus and Taurus at 24 degrees, 2 minutes. The full moon in Virgo is 23 degrees, 56 minutes. So that is just 6 minutes away from being completely exact, which is very strong, very intense energy. I also think this could bring sudden events. And this is something that I think we're gonna sense. I think this could be financial markets again, because the closer Uranus gets to that anaretic degree in Taurus, the more volatile these markets are going to be. Um, and so it's going to be a wild ride. There could just be, I mean, we're in the midst of a trade war, um, which is definitely having an effect on markets. Um, but it's Uranus and Taurus is all about mixing up what we're comfortable with and what we like, our material possessions and our values. So it could be dramatic gains, dramatic losses. Um, but Taurus energy likes stable incremental growth. So if you can find a way to have stable incremental growth by capitalizing on volatility, well, that's the key. That's the golden ticket right now. Um, if you I think there's a difference between knowing that something is predictably unpredictable and being able to sort of ride that unpredictability in a fun way versus like, oh my God, things are just terrible. They're never going to get better. And just getting depressed about it. That's not I don't think that's what's going to happen here. I think there's going to be some sort of event that leads to a quick dramatic exit of some sort. Could be public. I think it's going to be we're going to see some interesting headlines. Also, wouldn't be surprised if there's more travel issues with Mercury retrograde. We've had a lot of issues with planes for a while. This could also be um, an earthquake with this eclipse. Like we could see an earthquake happen somewhere on the globe that could be rather intense because of this action here. I mean, Saturn in Pisces likes rigidity, it likes stability. Uranus is an earth sign that is predictably unpredictable, and they're working together. This seems like it could be like these are sextile. This is a positive aspect, but it could also suggest that there's just a rigidity and unpredictability of things that just have to move, have to shift in order to readjust and find equilibrium in some way. And so that will be interesting to see what plays out there. But I do think that this in general is going to be a positive, beneficial eclipse, but it could feel in the moment just really painful and dramatic because whenever we have an unexpected departure from our lives, which eclipses usually bring one way or another, um, they are they're not fun, but in hindsight, it's usually for the best eventually. Um, and then we have Mars. He's finally direct. He's not retrograde anymore. He's at 18 degrees, 53 minutes of Cancer, which is, it's not exactly, it's not as close as I would like to see it be, but it's close enough to where it's talking in harmony with this sun down here in Pisces. So there can be a lot of momentum going right around uh, this full moon time. Um, so whatever is about to transpire on the world stage is going to bring about some radical changes. I think there could be some very real endings of some sort that are quite unexpected, but it will be good. It'll be a good thing. Also, fun fact, I don't know if it's fun, but just a fact. Um, Cheeto and Charge, his midheaven is at 24 degrees Taurus. So it will be interesting to see what happens with that when that P shows up even more in the news because of, I don't know, some sort of sudden departure of some sort, which would be good news. I don't know. I'm not going to hold my breath on that one necessarily, but when a girl can dream, it's good to have goals, I guess. Um, and we have, let's see, what else do we have? We've talked about the moon. Jupiter's at 13 degrees Gemini. He's also finally direct again, so he's making his way back through Gemini and moving into Cancer later this year. So it's going to be really quick. There's going to be a lot of developments. Jupiter and Gemini is very pacey, quick, energetic, energized conversations, short-term travel, lots of short little trips. Not so much like big, grand overseas kind of stuff, but like long weekend trip here, a long weekend trip there, and a lot of conversations, a lot of interesting ideas bubbling up. People could be chattier than normal too, especially if they are Geminis, because Geminis love to chat anyway, and listen. They love to ask questions. So, um, it's a good practice just to sit and ask questions. And then we have Pluto. Pluto is down here at 3 degrees, 12 minutes of Aquarius. He's not doing too much. He is kind of taking a breather on this. I mean, the closest thing I would say that he is helping us out with right now is Juno is at 1 degree Sag in this chart, and he's at 3 degrees Aquarius. So there could be some out of the box thinking and strategy that has a bit of magnetism to it, that could be kind of going on behind closed doors. So just be aware, be sensitive to those intuitive hits and what this um spidey senses might be tingling and what they tell you. And don't ignore them. This is not the time to ignore your intuition. If anything, trust it now more than ever, lean into it and be grateful for it. Now, what kinds of crystals are good with Virgo energy? I like things that are grounding. I think mahogany jasper comes to mind off the top of my head. I also like um, it's not so much a crystal, but just like being able to hold pieces of petrified wood. That is just ancient energy, and it was alive at one point in time, and I think that's kind of cool to work with sometimes with Virgo energy. Um, Also, garnets. Um, Garnets have to do with Persephone and her journey into the underworld and her mother Demeter, you know, making winter happen when Persephone descended into the underworld. So garnets can be really helpful with grounding that root chakra energy, especially in the midst of so much Pisces energy that's really flowy and kind of out there. But that root chakra energy is going to need to be like a little baby during this, like get grounded, stay in your sense of alignment, look for that flow. And do that by just sitting in stillness, maybe play some music, but try to quiet the mind and sit in positive, loving, abundant feelings just in your energy. And without saying any words in your mind, you can just feel the energy of love around you, like a soft pink kind of cotton candy cloud-like blanket, and just sit in that energy and ground yourself in that sense of peace, regardless of what is going on externally, because that's how we anchor in our peace into this dimension. If we can move through this life feeling centered, feeling grounded, and not becoming overwhelmed, we're ahead of the game. So check out which house this full moon is happening in for you. It could give you a clue as to some potential you know, events that might unfold for you. So in this chart, the chart of the full moon, it's in the ninth house. That's religion, it's spirituality. It's also justice, and what is right and wrong, the legal system too. So going back to the Cheeto in chief, he's got a lot of legal issues. So there could be a situation where the justice legal system comes in to try to make things right with some of his court cases. And maybe something just completely unexpected happens that makes us all really happy. I don't know. Um, but check out which house 23 degrees of Virgo is going to be falling in for you. And reflect on what that means, reflect on how your acts of service, how your devotion to your the small choices that you make add up and accumulate over time. Virgo is very, very good about making small incremental decisions that have huge net positive impacts over time. So just, make sure that you're paying attention to that, meditate on that, um, and look for some affirmations to anchor in a loving departure. If this is hitting your chart somewhere on a planet, I mean, I've been seeing a lot of people come across my desk in the last few days who have Saturn at 22, 23 degrees. So an eclipse on Saturn, depending on where it is, not going to be fun. Certainly going to feel memorable. It'll show up differently for everybody, but I'm kind of like I'm I'm I luckily don't have anything where this is hitting me specifically, but I can imagine that I am going to hear people talking about um out of the blue, strange, dramatic events that have transpired over this next week. And don't forget, eclipses do have a window of activity. It's about 10 days. The middle of that bell curve is the date of the eclipse. That's Friday, March 14th at 2:54 a.m. So there could be, that's when it's at its perfection and its most intense, but then on either side it tapers off. So there could be things that happened a week or two ago that you're like, oh my gosh, this is definitely that eclipse energy coming in, and just roll with it. So yeah. Um, Thank you for listening. I'll be back soon with another episode of the show with a great guest. I've got some really wonderful writers on the schedule to get interviewed. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, sign up for the Daily Dose. If you sign up for the Daily Dose, you get my astrological insights for every single day of the year. It comes in Monday through Friday. Friday is the weekend edition. I write it for my audience who can't see me all the time. It's a very affordable, $8 a month, better than Netflix, because I am trying to help your life, not just distract you from it. And yeah, that's how you can support me as an independent creator and creative, and keep in touch and still get all of that really wonderful astrological insight. So Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, I wish you all the best the stars have to offer.